Hello, welcome to the Nintendo Bros podcast. This is Pete,
And this is Derek.
and we're back to talk about Nintendo video games and everything life.
Everything life, exactly.
Video games are life, so that's the trick, right? I mean, if you're talking about life, you're talking about video games.
That's how I'm feeling recently. I've been playing a lot of games recently, so I've been feeling that.
Video games are life, Derek. The only reason I get up in the morning and go to work is to make money for video games. The only reason I eat is to survive to play more video games. So
Yeah, sometimes the reason I know I'm gonna get through tough times at work or something is like, oh, in 3 months this game comes out, so I can make it till then.
yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, should I commit suicide today? No, there's a new Zelda coming out. All right, let's get into it, Derek. 'Cause we have an exciting topic today. It's Mario RPG.
Mm-hmm.
Legend of the Seven Stars. Subtitle dropped.
Yes.
But yeah, so last time we spoke, this game hadn't come out yet. We were kind of excited about it. This is a game that we probably over the course of like a 10 years of podcasting, we could be hyping for and wanting and dreaming of. And now it's here. It's in our Switches. We both played it. So Derek, let me start just by saying I haven't beaten it yet.
Okay.
But I don't know I don't know if you need to be like super spoilerific. Like obviously we know about the post-game editions, and I think most listeners do too. So don't be too sensitive about it, but just know that just a precursor. I haven't beaten it. I'm just at the pirate ship part.
Okay, yeah. So I wouldn't tell you that you unlock Luigi as the 6th character or whatever.
Okay, well, you ruined that already.
That's
It
a
is
joke.
weird how it does remind me. It is interesting. That's one of the thoughts I had playing it. I'm like, where's Luigi in this game? I think he has a cameo, but it's just interesting how later on Luigi becomes like such a staple character, and like pre Luigi's Mansion, he really wasn't, right? Like he was really kind of a sidekick.
Yeah, he's in Mario 2, and then because he's just an alternate color for even like the original Super Mario Bros.
Yeah, and I mean he's really just he's really just like he's in Mario Kart, he's in Mario Parties, but he didn't really get his own time to shine until GameCube. But anyways, Derek, I want to hear your thoughts about Mario RPG, because this is one of your the first Mario RPG ranks as what, one of your top 5 games ever, right?
Top 3 even, I think. Yeah, maybe top 5. I mean, lists are always changing, but yeah, it's definitely up there in the one of my favorite games of all time for sure. So yeah,
it's on my top 50 for sure.
Yeah, I haven't maybe a list of like top 25. It's definitely on there. I think it would be top 5, but I haven't been so picky about that. But yeah, so I've beaten the game. I've 100% of the game except for like maybe 2 little side quests that are really, really time consuming, and I just not going to bother with. Okay. I loved it a lot. Like it is really true to the original. So again, as a fan of the original, it felt nice to play this. It was kind of like a comfort food, like I knew what to expect. I knew the story. I knew the bosses. I knew like all the power-ups, the levels, how the story went. So it was really nostalgic for me. Like we often talk about the nostalgia factor. This is one of the games that really gave that to me. I will say though, like I don't think this is gonna be my game of the year, even though it's one of my favorite classics of all time. Just because you can really feel the age of the game. If I think about even other RPGs I played this year, or like Octopath Traveler 2, or just other games that I played this year, you can see the if you really look, you can see the age. If you look behind the kind of the nostalgia screen, there's not a lot of variety in the combat. The special moves aren't really differentiated enough to use them all. The enemy variety is pretty good, but again, the game's kind of simple. The story is one of the shining parts of it, and I think the music as well. Like the redone music is phenomenal. But yeah, overall, like I loved it a lot. But it's not going to be my game of the year. I don't know if I say this replaces the old original on SNES. I don't think it does. Just because, like, again, some of the small changes I don't love, and I had to keep that nostalgia factor of the original intact. So this one kind of just doesn't have that. The other thing that I really didn't like with this game, not that I didn't really like about it, but it is much easier than the original. I know a lot of people online are kind of debating the original was really easy.
Is it actually much easier, Derek? 'Cause let me just say, I'm finding the game incredibly easy. Like almost it bothers me how easy it is. But I also can't tell if that was just because I'm a more experienced gamer now than I was in 1996.
I think this game is much easier, even without the triple moves. I find like the AoE timing attacks makes it a lot easier, and I find the bosses just don't have the same kind of damage output. Like I remember playing in, with you back in the Super Nintendo back in the day. Like even though we were younger, there are bosses. Like I don't know where you are if you've gotten to you said you passed the pirate ship, but I remember Johnny the Shark beating us. Like there were times where he would beat us and we'd have to try it again or multiple times, or go and level up, or we'd go and I'm thinking of in the volcano. You haven't got there yet, but like the Axum Rangers, I remember that being like a hard stop where we couldn't beat the 5 Axum Rangers.
Yeah.
And you'll fly through it this time. Even the final boss I did in one go, and I remember that day you spent like a couple hours playing that final boss over and over again and kind of refining how to beat him. I remember that when you beat him for the first time.
Yeah.
So this game is a lot easier. It makes me really, it makes it obvious in my mind that there's a glaring omission from the hard mode, of not having a hard mode. Like especially the post-game bosses. Like, there's 6 of them. The first 5 are pretty fun. Like they're not necessarily hard. They do pack a better punch. They're more like what I would expect.
There's only 6 post-game bosses. I thought there'd be more. I mean, there's a lot of bosses in this game.
Yeah, it's just a select few of them.
Okay.
So there's 6 of them. The first 5 are pretty. They're like what I would expect from a hard mode, as those would be like the regular bosses in a hard mode. They're pretty good, but it's a little gimmicky at times, but nothing, whatever. But the final post-game boss, I don't know if you want me to tell you who it is, but the final post-game...
No, don't.
Okay, to me, was the crown of the whole game, and it's like the best addition to the game. It required everything, like from using a whole bunch of items to like almost running out of items, to like swapping party members, to using different triple attacks, to getting timed hits for normal attacks versus timed hits for specials, looking at weaknesses. Like it really took everything, and it just made me feel like, oh man, that was such an awesome fight. I can't believe they didn't have a difficulty that made it feel like that for every boss.
And the thing that I'm really curious about is like, what's the breezy mode then?
The breezy mode, I honestly don't know what it is. Like I played it a bit when I was trying to do the 100 jump challenge. I'll talk about that in a second. But I switched to the breezy mode, and the enemies die so quickly, and they do no damage to you at all. Like it's so easy, and I think the timings, at least for blocking in my mind, like getting that perfect block,
it's
easier. So like talking about the 100 jumps, I don't know if you know this, but like there's a character,
you gotta jump a jump rope or something 100 times, right?
No, you do the super jump move on Mario, and if you hit an enemy 100 times without a mistake, you unlock the best armor in the game. If you do 30 times in a row, you unlock the best accessory in the game. So I, as a child, knew about this, and when I played on, I want to say like the Wii or Wii U Virtual Console, I tried to do this. I spent a lot of time trying to get the 100 jumps, could never do it. So this game, I was like dedicated. I was like, I'm gonna get the 100 jumps, and before I even entered Booster Tower, I went back to the first area and I grinded maybe for like 2-3 hours just to get this. And I was like, it's the kind of thing where you have to almost be pixel perfect. And after like 30 jumps, like your mind and eyes kind of lose focus, and you're like not even seeing the animations anymore. You're like looking at a blip of shadow that blinks, and you're like timing it to the blink.
Yeah.
And it's like it was like kind of a weird mind trip, but I did end up getting it. So for me, that was like a childhood goal finally accomplished.
Nice.
So that felt really nice. But yeah, overall, really liked the game. Hard mode, the final boss is amazing, music is amazing, performance is whatever, too easy, and I wish they had a hard mode.
Yeah, I mean, I really am surprised there's not a hard mode, but I wasn't sure as I was playing it if there were certain things that were just making it easier, like the fact that I'm more I played a lot of games, so the idea of like healing yourself into mid battle didn't feel normal. Where I think when I played Super Mario RPG as a kid, it was like I don't know, it was like the training wheels for an RPG. But the other thing now I've noticed is the battles are so fast, like the load times and the speed it takes to get in and out of a battle is so quick that I feel like now when I come into an area, I'm like, well, I'll just clear every single enemy here. Where back in the day, I would have maybe tried to skip some of the enemies because the battles felt longer. So I wasn't sure if I was just leveling up too quickly, and I've now tried to start to like skip enemies to make it a little harder.
What some people are doing, which you might find interesting, is you can unequip armor or equip a lower level armor, so your characters just don't have armor, and they'll just take more damage. So it's a little bit more thoughtful with what you do.
Yeah.
I didn't do that, but yeah.
But some of it's just like muscle memory, right? Like I played through the first chunk. I mean, I'm just memorized. I had that first chunk like almost muscle memory out, where I know the moment I get back to Mushroom Kingdom, I go into the store and I upgrade everything. Like there's little moments that I'm like, oh, I know to go here to get these items now. Like it's kind of like when the time is to upgrade. Where if I was playing the original game, especially as a little kid, like I might just completely not understand the idea of equipping things right away. So I don't know, it really is like a beginner's game. But I agree that at least a hard mode where the enemies pose a little more challenge, where I'm having to spend a little more money on mushrooms and heal a little more. And
Yeah,
I
use some
think
items.
I would appreciate that, and I'm really surprised it's not there. And I actually would like if they added it as a DLC option.
Yeah, two more things I forgot while you were talking to add is agreed on the DLC, but some things that I did like were even though I don't know if this made it more easy because it was so accessible, I liked the quality of life change of having your healing spells and your items accessible like as a mini screen in the world map.
Same, that's great.
Because I don't know if you noticed, like if you use a flower tab, it increases your max FP, but also restores it all.
Absolutely. So you
yeah.
use them. You use them sparingly. Yeah.
Yeah, I just use all my spells nonstop.
Yeah. HP rain all day.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing I really liked is the addition of I don't think this spell was in the original, or it might have been actually, but it might have been. Now it's actually like a collectible where it's Mallow's like mind thought peak or whatever thought peak.
Yeah, I got it early. Where you can get the enemies like information about them.
Yeah, so basically I, for the first time ever, played with Mallow almost the entire game, which, normally I always played the game as Geno and Bowser. I just always did. And this time I played through with Mallow and Peach. So my entire playthrough was really Mallow, Peach, and Mario, which is the complete opposite of what I always did in the
Probably makes
original.
It harder because I believe Bowser and Geno are better.
No, Bowser's the worst character in the game.
No kidding. Oh, really?
Yeah, like absolutely worst. Like by a landslide. But it was just fun when I was like, oh, like I'm using all of Mallow's spells, which I've never used before. It just was a nice kind of fresh change. And even Peach, Peach is the best side character in the game, but I never really used her because, as a kid you don't pick healers, but she ends up being really good. So I had a lot of fun just kind of playing a different version of what I've always played.
I've been playing with Bowser and Peach, just having like the Mario team.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Bowser, his stats aren't good.
Some of the things I'm really liking about it, because I feel like we've been a little negative, is I find the just the UI and everything just feels really nice and snappy. I find the presentation to be gorgeous. I mean, I am looking over the performance issues a little bit.
It wasn't terrible, but it was noticeable.
This kind of game, it really doesn't seem to bother me that much because the exploring the main world is kind of, it is what it is, and it's never slowing down in the battle itself. Mm-hmm. So it really didn't bother me that much. Like it didn't bother me as much as a Link's Awakening, because to me, this game and Link's Awakening have the same kind of stutter issue where it's a little bit of stuttering a lot. Mm-hmm. But this game just didn't bother me. I hope that gets ironed out in future Switch 2 versions or something, because it'd be really smooth. And of course the music's great. And yeah, like you mentioned, the writing being really good. And the thing that threw me off is that the writing is snappy, and it seems like that's kind of a lost thing in modern games. And I remember playing Tears of the Kingdom, and you're kind of like, okay, I'm gonna go to a town now, and I'm gonna do some town quest. And you're like, okay, well, I better get my reading shoes on because I'm going to be reading and going through dialogue a lot.
It reminds me a lot of how some people talk about like anime television shows, where a lot of JRPGs or just RPGs in general do something called an exposition dump, where it's a key moments. They just like over explain and reiterate and like talk about every enemy and like recap everything, and it's like this over exposition of like the story, like it's like they didn't drip feed you at all, or like leave some mystery. They just explain everything at like a huge chunk moment. Where this game, you're right. It's like it's very quick, and it's the other thing is like it's a simple story. You know, like collect the stars, save Star Road, and get Bowser's Castle back, and whatever. Where, you know, other RPGs have these like overarching complex stories these days where they need all this explanation. Where, you know, this game one, it was quick, but I also like because it was so quick and simple, they could put a lot of kind of quirky, weird humor in it that really I think sells it.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, I love that I can get to a town and almost read every character's dialogue in the town in a couple minutes. Mm-hmm. And you still get the taste of the town and what the characters are going through, and it's actually funny. Still, it holds up. Can't believe the writing holds up so well. And the little things, like when you get to Mushroom Kingdom, originally you find I can't remember their characters. I think one of their name is Rain. It's the two toads that are planning to get married. Mm-hmm. And then you come back when the town's under attack, and they're like, well, we're going to delay the wedding. And then you go to, is it Marrymore? And like they're pushed out of their wedding. And then you go, and then they get married. So it's like, even though their text is so quick, you really feel like this world is alive through the way the characters progress over time, and seeing these characters change. I mean, I think there's a few more examples of that in the game, but it's just really clever and well done world building without needing to have a ton of text.
Yeah, like there's a funny thing. I didn't know this is I think in the original too, but I didn't know this. I don't know if this is a spoiler for you or not. But basically, after you do the whole Cloud City, if you go back to Booster's Tower and go to the very top where Peach was locked, there's a like a hidden little story moment that was really funny that I didn't know existed. It was like
I didn't know either. I gotta do that.
Anyway, so beat the Castle City and then just go back up to the top of Booster's Tower.
Okay, yeah, I'm planning to beat this game and then probably like look online and tackle some of those side missions that I never did as a kid. You know?
Yeah. So like you should. Yeah, I mean, if you ever want to do the post game bosses, you don't need the 100 jump one, but you should get some of the other better items.
Okay. But yeah, like overall, I'm really liking it, and I'm really surprised by how well it holds up. And I think that you're right. The original is still so great. It's like it kind of doesn't. It still holds up, but I think that this one is a nice replacement. And I honestly, if they do go and decide to add like a little hard mode, and you know maybe they improve the performance on future iterations, like I think this will be the de facto way to play this game going forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think if just for me, when I was, rating it, just my nostalgia still holds true in the old. But I agree, like, this is a great replacement. If I don't think I'll go back to ever play the SNES one again, or at least for a long time, if I have this one. And I just want to jump to kind of the question and discussion we had, I think last podcast is this opening a door for a possible Super Mario RPG 2? And like you're right, it was kind of lightning in a bottle, but I feel like there's something here. You're saying the quirky, quick snap story, the timed attacks really don't exist very often in a lot of games. I think there's potential there, but it would need a lot of like careful craftsmanship. I hope there would be a sequel.
I think the other thing to keep in mind too, and I saw this opinion online, so I'm kind of hijacking someone else's opinion, is that Super Mario RPG kind of captured that essence of JRPGs at the time. And that the thing I love about it is that it feels like the best and most approachable RPG of that entire style. Not that I'm an expert of that style, but just that kind of Super Nintendo RPG. Where it seemed like Chrono Trigger and Mario RPG were kind of like the apex before we moved into a different form of JRPG with like Final Fantasy VII and stuff going forward. So it feels like it's kind of capturing this lightning in a bottle, where it's like, let's take the staple of what a Super Nintendo era JRPG is, and let's infuse Mario into it. So do we make a new Mario RPG where we hold true to that Super Nintendo isometric kind of approach? Or do we someone suggested, well, I'd like to see a modern Mario RPG that actually takes all of the modernized maybe JRPG staples, like takes a little bit of the best parts of Persona and Xenoblade and Final Fantasy VII Remake, and maybe they could make a really, really awesome Mario RPG using all the modern staples of RPGs. And I think that'd be super cool in a way. Like, seeing a Mario RPG that kind of uses the visual style of something like a Mario Rabbids, but with the story and epic kind of epic stakes of a Final Fantasy, but also adding like a really wicked battle system that's using kind of like the animation style of something like the Mario Strikers games, where like you said, you know what I mean? Like there could be something to really evolve this series. I just don't know if they can take Mario RPG to the one that we know and love, the one we're playing, and just like do that again. I just don't think so. I just don't think so. Yeah.
So I gotta say, the idea you just said sounds awesome. Like I'd be down for even a game with like Smash Bros kind of graphics, but it was like a turn-based, like almost like as depth or deep as like a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. The thing I will say though, just to counter that, is a lot of indie games are coming out right now that are very similar in combat and style to the original Super Mario RPG and showing great success. Right, we have Chained Echoes that has like a 90 on Metacritic on Game Pass, sold really popular. We have Sea of Stars, that has the timing kind of combat going on. I think those games kind of show us that Mario RPG could have a sequel in this kind of old school style and do well. But I think I agree that your new school idea also would work really awesome. And the last thing I want to say is, just when we're talking about the potential of games because of this, I hope that this unlocks that idea of making Golden Sun 1 and 2 remake in the same kind of way they did this. Like very true to the original, because Golden Sun 1 and 2 are locked on their Game Boy Advance, and I feel like, just like RPG, those games really deserve to get that kind of polish up.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Golden Sun come back, but I also know the Golden Sun on DS didn't do super well. So, and Camelot's kind of in a weird, a lot of their staff I think has turned over since then. So I just don't know if there's the will to make a new Golden Sun.
Not a new one, just a remake.
But even we'll see. I mean, I'm wondering. I'm wondering if it's like more in Nintendo's interest to make a brand new Golden Sun that's really awesome and revitalize the series than to remake something. Because I mean, we saw how Advance Wars 1 and 2 remake did. It didn't do super well with the sales. So I don't know if there's a huge viability to high production value Game Boy Advance remakes.
Mm-hmm. True.
And I think Golden Sun will require a lot more work than something like Advance Wars. But I'm with you. But I think the thing with Mario RPG, is kind of looping back to that. I think it's a great remake, and I love it. I'm happy it exists, and it's better than I could have expected if someone had told me pre-announcement that this was coming. So I am happy with it, but I do think there was a little bit of a missed opportunity. And where I for our Game of the Year's awards, like sure, Mario RPG is like one of the best games ever, and it should be the top of my list. But I do kind of there is an element of like, well, this is a remake. I played it before. I need to kind of prioritize the new experiences that define this year.
But
I do think it was a missed opportunity to not have a hard mode like we discussed, but also not having any additionals. Like I would have loved just like a side mode of like Luigi's RPG adventure that was like a 3-hour thing, him running through a mansion or something, like something to add to this experience, like they did with Xenoblade 1,
or even like Mario 3D World, right, with the Bowser's. What's it
exactly called? Bowser's Fury. So I think
that side content. Yeah,
I really would have loved that. And I know like even the new Kirby Return to Dreamland, which is a Wii remake on Switch, included a whole bunch of additionals. So I guess I was just a little disappointed that it feels like okay, they got basically the remake done, but it just would have been nice if they were a little more ambitious with adding more for us. You know,
and again. Those extra bosses are really fun and unique, and I'm like it's so nice to play something new in this game. I hope you get to them, especially the last one. It might take a bit of time, but it's worth it in my mind. Like it really show you like the potential that it has.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, I'm into that, and that might be where it's actually so hard I'm not enjoying it, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I just wanted to. So, Derek, you beat. What would you give a final out of 10 score for Mario RPG?
Again, the original is a 10 to me. I would probably give this like a high 8 or a 9. Again, part of that's nostalgia. Part of that is this game is a really solid remake. It is really fun still. The story and the music hold up. But again, it shows its age, right? This isn't 1995 or whatever, or
Yeah,
96. Like, so it shows that age, right? So I can't give it that same kind of score, knowing all the other amazing games are coming out that do have more refinement on those things that we didn't know we needed back then. So yeah. I'd give it a high 8, low 9.
Yeah, I'd probably give it I mean, I haven't beaten it, but right now I'm looking at like kind of a pretty solid 8. I'm enjoying it, but it does feel like I'm kind of just like playing a polished older game. But yeah, it's great, and I just love that Nintendo's recognizing this game again, because it feels like it was one of those games like they just like the redheaded stepchild, like they never wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I really hope that going into the Thousand Year Door, because I had my big problem with Paper Mario 64 and Thousand Year Door is they're also way too easy, and they were way too easy when I was 9 years old. So I think that I would like those games to have a hard mode, or the Thousand Year Door remake to have a hard mode or a little more challenge as well. Because I mean, found that game really easy, and it's also, your HP only gets up to like 30, so it's just like small numbers. Like,
you never beat Thousand Year Door.
I never beat. We never owned it. I
know, but
actually
the final stuff is pretty hard in that game.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to playing that one. It's probably going to be one of the last Switch games coming out this year. So
next year, but
next year. And Derek, I'll just final question for you. So we've had 2 big Mario games recently: Mario RPG and Mario Wonder. Which one would you put higher on your lists for this year, or for your Switch list? Like, I know you're not like super like in love with either necessarily, but like which one would you rank higher, or like which one do you prefer?
Yeah, I'm not going to give a full answer to that yet, just because I want to say that for our Game of the Year list, and also I honestly don't have a solid answer right now. Like, if I'm just thinking off the top of my head, there's that nostalgia. Like, how can I not give that to Mario RPG? But there's also like, man, Mario Wonder has a lot of good things. I just beat Mario Wonder yesterday, so I've beaten both games and played a lot of both games in the past week or two. I don't know. I can't really say right now. I really have to think about that more, because there's things that I love about both, and how do I compare them?
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird comparison. It's like, what do you like better, A Link to the Past or, Breath of the Wild? Like, it's just kind of like,
exactly.
What are you asking me? To ruin my childhood?
Yeah.
Okay, Derek, I'm going to ask you a question in a vague way right now.
Okay, go for it.
Because we usually, just so our listeners know, we usually wait till about the end of January for our Game of the Year awards, which, in my opinion, is the only logical way to do it, so we have extra time to play all the big games that we want to. But I'm not going to ask you what your top 3 Game of the Year list is, but do you know what your top 3 are, and do you think it has any potential to change?
Yeah, so let me just look at my Game of the Year list. Yeah, so I have 2 of the top 3 that are definitely in my top 3. I know number 1, I think, for sure, and I'm sure you can probably guess that. And I think I know number 2, but that might drop to number 3. I have a number 3 in there right now, but there's a few games that I've recently played or am playing that might actually bump it out if I take more time to think about it. But I definitely have 2 of my top 3 settled. How about you?
I have my top 3 pretty settled, like pretty really settled. And honestly, they were the 3 that I kind of predicted would be my 3, because it almost mimics my actual top 100 list pretty closely if you replace Tears of the Kingdom with Breath of the Wild. But I don't see those 3 changing order. I think at this point, if the remaining games I plan to play this year, if any of those replaced any of these 3, they'd have to like blow me away to an insane degree. So
can I ask you a question on it without, I guess this is kind of spoiling your list a bit. Is one of your top 3 Metroid Prime?
Yes.
Okay. I just didn't know if, like, I know that's one of your favorite games and it was amazing. I just didn't know if you'd rank it high or not, because it's a remaster and you're, again, that newness factor.
Well, the way that I considered it was that I just like how much I thoroughly enjoyed replaying it, and how much, like, just how happy I am that remake exists, and how much the game holds up, and how all the, I don't know, like the nostalgia I might feel for Mario RPG is like tenfold with Metroid Prime. But in Metroid Prime, like, I just, every time I play that, no matter if it's the original or the remaster, which is great, I'm just fully immersed into that world, and I fully believe that world exists in a way that doesn't feel like a, I don't know, it's just hard, it's just like, it's weird. Yeah. It's a weird thing to explain, where like the game just feels like a real place to me.
Yeah. That's how I
where
feel with
other
like
games
Link to the
don't.
Past. Yeah, I feel like that with Link to the Past.
Yeah, and I sort of feel the same with like Ocarina of Time a little bit. Like this space in my brain just exists as a real space. So I know I'm kind of cheating a bit by doing that, but I just think Metroid Prime Remaster is it's just such a great game, and like I always say, it's got like a mysticism to it, right? Like it's a mystical type of experience.
Yeah.
But anyways, Derek, I just want to ask you that quick question. So I had another couple. Well, anyways, let me just ask you the quick question. What games do you still plan to play in 2023? While we're on the topic of Game of the Year.
Oh man, I have a few. So, games that I'm playing like right now, trying to get through and beat. I have Octopath Traveler 2 that I'm almost done. I'm probably at like 85%, so I just want to finish that. And also Lies of P, I think I'm about 60%, so I want to get through those two games. Those are the two like big games that I really want to finish. I want to try the new Mario Kart 8 Deluxe tracks. I haven't got to those. I just got invited to the Stormgate beta, so I know that game's not coming out this year, but I want to play that. Remnant 2 a little bit more. And then it comes to the games that are like full games that I haven't played at all that I really want to like try for 2023 Game of the Year list. So I have Forspoken. I know it didn't do very well, but I want to give it a go, see if I enjoy it. I want to try Wo Long. And then as far as the indie space, so those are kind of like two, AAA games, but the indie space, I want to try Cassette Beasts and Astral Ascent.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. How about you?
For me, on my list here, I've got Alan Wake 2 and Armored Core 6 are the two that I really, really want to play. I'm going to Mexico City for a month, so that's why I'm going to probably get them when I get back. I think Armored Core will be the first physical game I buy for Xbox, because I don't see myself feeling the need to keep it, so I'll probably sell it after.
Yeah.
But Alan Wake 2 looks spectacular, and I that's a digital game, so I'm really excited to play those three, and then complete the games I've already played. I might try something else. Like there's always indie games surprise me. Dave the Diver I really want to try.
It's okay. I played a good chunk of it. It's pretty good, but it's not as good as I thought it was going to be.
I find games like that, they're like endless loop games, they kind of bore me after a bit. I kind of need something
that's what I found about
this.
this.
Discreet.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm really excited to try Alan Wake 2. Like I'm just the idea of like a packed, tight 12-hour psychological horror game that has amazing graphics. Like I actually like I'm tempted to buy it like every day. I really want it.
When are you getting back from Mexico City?
June 11th.
June 11th?
Sorry, January 11th.
So like we gotta talk about like when our Game of the Year lists are actually gonna be shared, because you're only gonna have so much time to play Alan Wake 2. So just make sure you have time to actually play that.
Well,
game
my plan is that when I get back from Mexico City, like I'm gonna bring my Switch, so I'm gonna have kind of polish off anything Switch related, and then when I get home, I'm going to try to just crush Alan Wake and Armored Core 6 in a short time frame.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, I might.
End of January is usually our thing.
I really want to play Alan Wake 2 as well. I might wait for a kind of a sale, so I'm excited to hear your impressions and whether I should pull the trigger sooner or later. But yeah, it looks awesome.
I also really want to support the developers, because I know Remedy, they're just talented, and I love how creative they've been with Alan Wake 2, that I just want to support it. So I don't.
Did you ever play Control?
I played I did play the cloud version on Switch. I played for about an hour of that, just to test the cloud gameplay, and it was cool. I mean, it felt like a Max Payne light, and I just didn't really like the closed-in kind of boxed environments. Just didn't really like. I don't like the idea of the whole game taking place indoors. So I just something about the environment of Alan Wake 2 and like the Vancouver style, or Portland or whatever, like wetland woods. Just it's such a cool environment.
Yeah, Alan Wake 2 I think has won the same, if not more, Game of the Year awards right now as Tears of the Kingdom. Like as far as how many different news games, gaming news sites, what game they picked for Game of the Year. I think Alan Wake has 5 or 6, and so does Tears of the Kingdom. And then Baldur's Gate 3 has like 10 or 11.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't see Tears of the Kingdom actually pulling ahead as the frontrunner Game of the Year.
I think Baldur's Gate 3 is the frontrunner for sure.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy though. Like, imagine a year. Like, again, we both love Tears of the Kingdom. Like, to me, it's one of the best games of all time. But imagine a year where Zelda comes out, like a really good Zelda like this, and it's not Game of the Year. Like, imagine what the other game has to pull off to dethrone that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a weird one though with Zelda because Tears of the Kingdom is a little bit like Majora's Mask, where a lot of the newness of it has been we've already felt.
Yeah.
So I can see where that for some people will bring it down a notch, not just being a completely fresh experience.
People were saying if there was no Breath of the Wild, there wouldn't be a question about which one would win Game of the Year.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think there's something to be said about Baldur's Gate 3 and just the way that game came out and the things it's doing that are new are really people are loving. But I have heard that Baldur's Gate 3 is not the most refined game. Like it's got some polish issues.
Yeah, I heard the last like there's 3 chapters or whatever, or 3 acts. The last act has a little bit of some performance issues.
Yeah,
it doesn't stop people from
some people but some people are saying no, that's really affecting my playthrough. Like where Tears of the Kingdom is like basically a crashless game. So
totally, I'm just saying like people still are unbelievably raving about Baldur's Gate 3. Like even with performance issues or whatever, like people are loving it. I'm really excited to play it.
I'll also say that if Baldur's Gate 3 came out in March or May, and Tears of the Kingdom came out in August, September, I think it might be different. I think there's a little bit of recency bias, where Tears of the Kingdom kind of like was a big splash earlier in the year, but like now people have moved on to other things. But if Tears of the Kingdom came out like November 5th, like I feel like it would be sweeping Game of the Years because it would have that like momentum it had for that first month or two. Remember when it was just like all over TikTok, all over Twitter, everyone was making new vehicles, and so I just think that a little early in the year, it's got the early in the year thing working against it.
Yeah.
I will say, like, I mean, I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3, but yeah, Tears of the Kingdom to me is just I like I've said before, it's my favorite game ever. And the more time away from it that I go and I think back on it, I actually like it more. Do you know what I mean?
I'm the same, yeah.
It's not like other games where I'm like, now that I'm kind of away from it, it's not as strong. This one's like, man, I almost kind of want to replay it. Like, it's just that some of those experiences in that game were just freaking epic and magic. And I would love for them to release like a extra DLC or a hard mode or something to inspire me to go back. But definitely I will replay Tears of the Kingdom one day. And it might be in 15 years and it might be in 4K on Switch 3, but like, I will revisit this game. I just love it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, Derek, let's talk about some of our surprises and disappointments from 2023. So I had a kind of a 4-question part here. I have biggest surprise and disappointment from Nintendo, and I've got biggest surprise and disappointed non-Nintendo.
Let's do it.
So let's start with our biggest surprise from Nintendo in 2023. And I wrote a couple because I think your answer is gonna be the same as mine. Do you want to go first, Derek?
I'll go first. I don't think I was going to be the same. We'll see. So first, like the surprise factor of like I wouldn't expect this to be called out at all or like to drop is Mario RPG, of course. Again, like it just blew my mind. Did not expect that.
But no one could have predicted it.
Yeah. No, exactly. But as far as a game that really kicked it up a notch in terms of quality, that like surprised me and how good it was, I actually give that to Pikmin 4. So again, I love the Pikmin series, and I went in with high bars for Pikmin 4 anyways, but it just really hit every note for me. I felt there was a lot of content there. I liked the new Pikmin. I liked the levels. I liked Ochi. It just really vibed with me, and I went in expecting more. Like Pikmin 3, again, I liked it a lot. It was my least favorite of all the Pikmin games. So I was like, if they're going down this path, I don't know if I'm going to love Pikmin 4. Like, I think I'll just find it like a solid 8 or whatever. But Pikmin 4, again, it just blew me away. I really, really liked it.
Yeah, you know what it kind of feels like to me with Pikmin 4, and I'm still playing it. I'm loving it. And then it's probably my favorite Pikmin game, other than my nostalgia for the first one. Mm-hmm. But with Pikmin 1, it kind of felt like you got like a small dish of food that was really tasty. With Pikmin 2, it's like, you got another tasty dish of food, but it's a little more food, and you got a little side item. Then with Pikmin 3, you kind of got the same as Pikmin 1, Pikmin 2. You got a good dish of food. Pikmin 4 feels like I have a whole Thanksgiving table in front of me.
Totally, exactly.
I love the structure of it where it's kind of taken things like the like Olimar's side adventure, the main adventure, and the night mode, as well as Dendori battles, and makes them work in the structure of the game in a really cool way that works with the story of the game, but lets you play it how you want. And I'm loving now that I can take on a completely different mode. It doesn't feel like the nighttime, whatever they call it, mode is like some throwaway mode in the menu that you get a high score in. It feels integrated. It is integrated into the main story and game, and like helping the rescuers. Like, I love that integration.
Yeah.
And it just feels, it feels like it's never going to end. Like, I'm on day 55 and I'm like, well, I'm just going to keep going and going and
Oh my
going.
God.
I really like it. It's a great game to kind of like pick away at over the year.
Did you beat the Olimar side story yet?
No, actually, I did a good half of it, and then I kind of went back and started 100%ing some of the other stuff in the main story.
You should finish that if you can, because it'll unlock something. It'll unlock something else.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, that I wouldn't say that was a surprise, but definitely Pikmin 3 was the game that I'm like, whoa, this game turned out kind of better than I would have expected. I kind of expected like a pretty mum adventure, like a single player, you beat it, you're done, maybe a small side mode, and it just feels like they went all out
Agreed.
with content, and I love that they just chocked it full of content. I hope they had DLC. My my biggest surprise for Nintendo in 2023, and I put a runner-up because I've heard a lot of other podcasts talk about this, was the depths in Tears of the Kingdom. Being just a major surprise that they went that big and that hard, and I loved exploring the depths. It is a completely new feeling, and finding the depths for the first time in Tears of the Kingdom, I had been spoiled a little bit. I read some of the spoilers, but to really go there and see it and the darkness of it and hear that on the horn, like, it's such a great moment. So I thought the depths was freaking awesome. I know some people didn't like it, but I loved it.
It's funny, like as far as spoilers go, we had seen some leaked trailers or whatever, and some people had talked about like, oh, they're being an underground. And in my mind, I was like, oh, like those are caves. Like, we can see some caves and whatever. And when I was playing, I was like, okay, there's caves, whatever. Like, that's cool to explore a few of them. It was a while till I got to the underground, and I didn't even realize that's what people were talking about when they meant like there's a whole third map. Like, that's just wicked.
Oh yeah, and I can't. The number of times where I threw Tears of the Kingdom on, I'm just like, I'm just gonna do some cave mining. Or some depths mining.
Yeah,
and
it's like you have 45 minutes. You don't want to do any story. You just want to get resources.
Yeah, and it's just like such a great gameplay shift of kind of like a little bit more mindless of an exploration. But it just like it was a nice refresher to other forms of gameplay.
Totally.
Because, there's a big difference between putting a Korok on a vehicle and getting him up a mountain and like just running through the depths. But yeah, I just thought it was really cool. But my actual biggest surprise from this year is actually F-Zero 99. And it's not,
I did not think that.
Yeah, it's not that it exists, because I know there was like kind of rumors and speculation about F-Zero 99. It's just how much fun it actually is. And I didn't expect it to be like one of my most played Switch games this year. And a game that I keep going back to. And I'm telling you, there's something about battle royales that's fun. Like I do enjoy them to have that many players against me. But I think this is my favorite battle royale yet, because you really feel like you're against those other 100 people, and it's just the chaos. And it's just like it feels like when you come in 20th, you're like, wow, I really beat 80 people. And when you make someone else blow up, you're like, I really ruined that guy's race. And it just, there's an intensity to it that's really, every race is super enjoyable. And I think the sad thing with it is that it was really popular when it came out. I think it's still sort of popular, but playing it now, your rooms don't fill up as quick, and you can tell that it's a little more bots in the room. So I think some of these 99 games, and it's interesting, like I played Tetris 99, I played Mario 35, which was kind of a 99 Battle Royale, but with 35 players. They don't feel like they last forever. I don't see F-Zero 99 like being popular in 2 years from now, just because it's like a contained experience, and I'm not sure if that's Nintendo's intent with these free games. But I would love to see this 99 formula applied to the next F-Zero main release, because I think it's completely shifted the way it it feels like this is the full realization of F-Zero in a weird way. Like even GX though, it's a beautiful game. It's amazing. One of my favorite games ever. You still feel like you're only playing against CPUs. And there's like a dumbness to that. And you're only racing 30 racers. It just doesn't have the same intensity as 100 racers. So it feels like this kind of like, it feels like it's reached the vision of what that game could be. Almost like the same way like Breath of the Wild feels like it reaches the vision of what a Zelda could have been. It really feels like this is at least scratching at it. I think if they do like a next gen nice graphics with a single player mode and campaigns and all that, and add this as the side mode, it would be an exceptional game.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
So what?
Yeah.
What's your biggest disappointment from Nintendo in 2023?
So I had to go through all the games that I played this year to see if, just looking at Nintendo games that I played. I'm sure there are disappointments like you might even talk about that we didn't play, but the one that I actually played and did not love, it was okay, was Fire Emblem Engage. I came off not liking Three Houses that much. So I went into this hoping for, it looked like it was a bit more return to what I liked. And again, I did enjoy the game, but it really did fall kind of flat, and it became a little brain dead, and the combat just wasn't really intriguing. The maps weren't intriguing. It was just kind of like move your guys from point A to point B and win the fight. Like it wasn't like some of the older Fire Emblem games. They have a lot more map kind of I don't know what the word is, like objectives, where it's like, oh, defend this, or like get here in time, or there's like a wall of fire moving towards you, or whatever. Where this is very much like, oh, you have infinity turns. You just are moving towards the endpoint boss of that map. So that kind of, again, I like the game, but I am a big fan of Fire Emblem. In the past two have kind of been hype softeners for me. So now the next one that comes out, again, I'm gonna be a bit more hesitant to grab.
Well, I think we talked about this before with Fire Emblem. But it feels like where they're expanding the series and adding to the series is not actually in the SRPG map battles themselves.
Exactly.
If anything, those seem to be getting simpler, and they're focusing on the side objectives, like the story and getting married and all the stuff like that.
The sim life stuff, yeah.
Which in the funny thing to me is Fire Emblem seems like one of those series that should only come around every 3 to 5 years. Like I don't get why we're almost on an annual Fire Emblem thing now.
I guess they sell well or something. Like they must sell pretty well for how much.
They're not that expensive to make.
That's what I was gonna say. For how much it costs to make, yeah.
Yeah, but there is certainly an element where if you keep making these games, they're gonna feel a little tired. And I know they have a very strongly rumored, probably happening. It's a remake of another Fire Emblem called Genealogy of War. I think it's Fire Emblem 4. So that's basically leaked to the point where it's coming. So it's just kind of do we need that many Fire Emblem games on Switch? Maybe. And we got 2 Fire Emblem Warrior games on Switch.
The thing I would say is I'm okay with if it's a remake of one of the older games and they kind of stick to the old better maps. I'm more interested. But yeah, I don't think they're going in the right direction, and I agree. I find Fire Emblem just over the top in my face these days. We have we have 8 characters in Smash Bros that are Fire Emblem. I know. Yeah. We have 4 Fire Emblem games on the Switch.
It feels a little overrepresented when considering people don't play it that much.
I find it crazy that there's again 4 Fire Emblem games. I know 2 of them are the Warriors games or whatever. But we have 0 Donkey Kong games. Donkey Kong and Mario Minis or whatever comes out next year, but...
You're right. I mean, I think Donkey Kong requires a lot bigger budget to make.
For sure.
Just because the style of that game. But and I also think we are getting another Donkey Kong at some point. But, yeah, you're right. Fire Emblem seems overrepresented.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, what was your worst Nintendo surprise?
So my biggest disappointment from Nintendo in 2023 was definitely the Splatoon 3 DLC. It was one of my favorite games of last year, and I played it a lot. I really enjoyed the game, and I just feel like they could have done a better job of sustaining the interest. I felt like Splatoon 2 did a really good job of sustaining my interest over the year by frequently adding things, by adding the Octo expansion. It pulled me back in a lot. Where with Splatoon 3, it feels like the levels and the like the roadmap is too slow. And it was like it felt like, remember that whole mode they were adding that was like this whole brand new mode, and it was like it felt like it only happened once. Remember that like it was like
yeah,
the special salmon run mode?
yeah.
Like it was fun, and it only felt like it happened a few times. It felt like the tricolor battles was just a flop. It never really like developed. Like I thought they were gonna kind of improve.
Those
on
are
that.
pretty. Those were pretty sparse too, though. It wasn't like they had them frequently.
They were only during Splatfests.
Yeah.
And they felt broken, and they never really felt fixed. So I never felt compelled to go back for any Splatfests. And the actual DLC that they announced on day one of the game has been extraordinarily lame. Like they released you can go back to the first hub world. Like I'm not paying $30 for that. And then they announced finally, a year later, they finally show us the new Splatoon 3 story DLC. And it looks interesting, but like we said, it just feels too little too late. It doesn't feel like a significant story expansion. It feels like a score attack side mode or a tower defense style
It's
thing.
it's like a roguelite or something.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, like, for them to announce it coming this summer, like, either this summer I'm going to be playing Switch 2 or thinking about Switch 2, or I'm just going to be in that kind of mode where Switch is kind of in its twilight years, and I'm probably not going to play $30 to fire up for a single mode in Splatoon 3. Like it's too bad that they didn't plan that roadmap better. And I was under the assumption that because Splatoon 3 didn't really introduce any big new modes and was extremely, although good iterations, it was extremely iterative. Maybe the most iterative game Nintendo's ever made. And they didn't. I assumed there'd be a roadmap. I assumed they'd have lots of new salmon run levels or new modes or new catches. And although I love the game, and I will still play Splatoon 4 if it comes out, I just thought they needed to do better on the DLC roadmap, given the lack of new things added.
That's a good answer.
Yeah,
and like what's funny is like the DLC will come in the summer, and then Switch 2 will be coming, and I guarantee like within 6 months Switch 4 or Splatoon 4 will come out in the Switch 2.
I don't know about that. I feel like Splatoon 3 will have I think it'll be backwards compatible, so I think we'll actually wait maybe a significant chunk into Switch 2's life for Splatoon 4.
We'll see. The first three have come out pretty close to each other.
Yeah, but I think the number 2 and 3 were pretty spread out. It was a good 5 years.
Okay.
And Splatoon 1 and 2 was a bit different because, the Wii U just flopped, and Splatoon 2 was almost like an expansion on the first one. But I just don't see them coming out with a new Splatoon 4 without having some significant thing to sell us on. They can't come out and be like, okay, it's the 3 modes you love again with like a little bit of refinement. Like, no.
That's how I felt about Splatoon 3, and you convinced me to get it, but like that's exactly how I felt with Splatoon 3. So I don't know. I feel like Splatoon 4 they're going to do the same thing because the games still sell like crazy well.
Yeah. But with Splatoon 3, I felt like those iterations were needed. You know what I mean? Like, it felt like Splatoon 2 didn't completely upgrade the way it should have. So Splatoon 3 kind of felt like the apex of the series, where if they make a Splatoon 4, like there's just marginal increases won't do as much for me this time. Like you have to do a significant single player mode or co-op modes or 8-on-8 players. Like, but I will say I still played a ton of Splatoon 3. Like my hours on the game are very high, and I really still enjoyed it a lot. Mm-hmm. I don't need to play a game forever to not hate it,
No, agreed. Especially at some point, every multiplayer game we play, we stop playing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
unless you're like a Fortnite person.
Yeah, the people that live and breathe one game. But every multiplayer game I've ever played, I put down eventually. So I'm not upset. I feel like I got my money's worth out of Splatoon 3. I think I would have played it longer, like you said, if it had a bit more to it that was different, or things that really drew me in, or constant kind of new content. Like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is a great example of. I played it a lot on the Wii U. I played it a lot on the Switch, and I still played it with friends once in a while. But when they dropped the new booster packs or whatever, I went back and played them on my own each time. It brought me back in for another like 6 hours or whatever each time they came out. Yeah. So there is that kind of, there's content there that really wanted me to make me play it, but I didn't get that feeling for Splatoon 3.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Splatoon, is that I think it's fairly hamstrung by the hardware. Because they needed to run at 60 frames, and I just don't think they can add more. Like, I think with Switch, they weren't really able to like add a 6-on-6 or a 8-on-8 mode, or expand the levels, or make things more extreme. Like, it had to all be sort of contained, and I think out of a lot of the Nintendo franchises, I really feel like Splatoon is going to benefit from a power jump. More than a lot of other series. Like, I think Mario, 3D Mario, 3D Zelda, 3D Metroid, of course, but I think Splatoon is going to be that other series that could potentially have a really awesome upgrade. I'd love to see like a Battle Royale mode, or an 8-on-8, or I'd love a co-op campaign. There's so much stuff that it can do. I love the controls and how that game works. It just feels like they need to just Pikmin 4 it, right? Add lots of new modes and stuff like that.
Yeah, agreed.
Derek, what was your biggest non-Nintendo surprise in 2023? And I have a feeling we had the same thing.
I have a feeling we didn't.
Okay, what's yours?
I have 3. I have 2 and then maybe a third. But my first one, which is the one that you might have the same as me, is Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. The other one I had that is probably bigger than Hi-Fi Rush is Chants of Sennaar, the indie language game I was telling you about a while back. And the other one that I'm still playing, so I don't know if I would say it's, the best non-Nintendo surprise, but it's up there. It definitely is in the running, so is Lies of P. So
interesting, okay.
Yeah, Lies of P came out, and I was excited for it to begin with. And, if you look at the Metacritic prediction game that we play, a lot of people were kind of like, it's an unknown studio. It's their first game. It looks like it's a clone of Bloodborne. It's not going to do well. It doesn't feel, the demo people didn't say felt good. It came out and people love it. It's like people are saying it's just an awesome game. It's the best, in my mind, the best Souls-like ever. Maybe competing with Neo 2. It's phenomenal. So that game kind of, even though I went in with high expectations, it actually met those expectations, and I'm really enjoying it.
Who made Lies of P?
Oh god, I don't know. I feel like it's a Korean studio, but I'd have to.
Okay, it's not like Namco or something.
No, I don't think so. And Chants of Sennaar is a game I just was reading about online. I heard it in a podcast. I heard it on some forums, and I give it a go. It's one of my favorite puzzle games. Like, it's probably my top 10 puzzle games of all time. It's just it's just an awesome game. It's really inventive, and I've never played a game like it before. Really, really enjoyed it. So those 2 games, loving them both. I'm gonna have you talk about Hi-Fi Rush first, because I just talked about these 2.
Okay. I mean, I guess the reason I put Hi-Fi Rush is because we literally did not. It was actually a surprise. Where Lies of P is more like you're kind of like, oh, it's surprisingly good.
That's what I meant. That's what I felt like with Pikmin 4 versus Mario RPG. Like, I was surprised by Mario RPG. I was surprised by Pikmin 4's quality. I was surprised by Hi-Fi Rush. I was surprised by Lies of P quality.
Yeah, I guess. Funny enough, none of the games this year really surprised me with the quality. Like I was hoping Tears of the Kingdom and 2D Mario and Pikmin 4 would be as good as they are, and they were. And I couldn't even say any of them surpassed my expectations, because my expectations were so high. They met them, but
you've only played so many games too.
True. But Hi-Fi Rush, like, even though I didn't beat it, it was a genuine unknown quantity, and when they announced it, I was kind of like, what is this? This looks kind of weird. And then it was like coming out right now, and it's like really polished and really well made and really cool graphics. And I actually, it's one of the games on my list to like beat before the end of the year, because I got halfway. And right at the point that I got halfway, like, it was starting to get really fun with using your partner buddies, and like it was like I felt like I was really connecting to the combo system. But then Metroid Prime Remastered came out, and then I just everything stopped. So I'm gonna revisit that, but it just felt like a real biggest win Microsoft has had all year, and maybe ever since Halo 1. And it feels like it was just like, wow, this is a moment, Microsoft. Like, you don't ever do this. Like, we're used to you announcing a game and showing us CG trailers for 10 years until it comes out and gets a 7.5. Where this is like, no, you didn't. We had no idea this exists. It's from a studio that we had no idea was working on this or could make this kind of game. It's got a really bold style. I just think it's awesome, and I hope it gets, I hope it gets love.
Yeah, I think it did. I mean, at least critically. I mean, who knows about awards wise? I don't really know what the sales were. I mean, it's on Game Pass. Yeah, Hi-Fi Rush is awesome. Like, we talked about it way back when it came out, but fighting kind of action games like this, like a Devil May Cry style fighting game, really enjoy those. Bring in rhythm-based combat, that sounds awesome. And I agree. I was really vibing with all the combo systems and heroes and skills that you could, and like even just the enemy types. Like, there's just a lot of cool stuff happening, and I agree. High polish. I like the music. I like the graphics. It's just a great package all around. It was completely out of the blue. And again, yeah. Tango is one of my favorite developers. I love the games that Tango makes, and this is like so out of left field for them. So I was like, well, I got to give it a chance. And it might. I don't want to say it's my favorite Tango game because I really love Evil Within. But yeah, it's fantastic. Like, Tango to me can't miss right now. Like, all their games are awesome.
I hope they're making an Evil Within.
There's
That'd be
already
really cool.
There's like a rumor confirmed of an Evil Within 3.
Like, if Microsoft announced that coming out next year, it'd instantly be one of my most wanted games of next year.
But you didn't play Evil Within 1 or 2.
I played the first one, half of it. But it was just a little bit old, right? It was a little. I mean, it was old at that point, and I don't know. I don't.
You should play Evil Within 2. Evil Within 1 is good because it's like so horror, even though it's janky. Evil Within 2 is like a really good Resident Evil 4 kind of game, where it's like it's just more of a solid, awesome game. Like, you should play Resident or Evil Within 2.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't.
I recommend it. I know. I recommended it to you like 15 times, but.
And I really liked what I was playing in the first one. I just sometimes with horror games, they like get me into a corner where like I don't feel compelled to turn them on again because they frighten me. You know what I mean? Like, I get to that point, I'm like, I don't know if I want to play that right now. Like, I don't want to feel stressed.
Yeah. But I like that. I don't know.
But anyways, I mean, a next-gen version, it's different when it's like the game is new and you're kind of in the apex of the moment, and like playing a game that's like 10 years old, right? So just different vibe. But Derek, the final one is, what's your biggest non-Nintendo disappointment in 2023?
So this is interesting because this game still might make my top 10. So it's beaten other games as far as do I like it, but it's way let down compared to what I expected, which is Diablo 4. So, I'm a huge Diablo fan. Played Diablo 2 for like hundreds of hours. I played Diablo 3 for hundreds of hours. Diablo 4, I wasn't going to buy it all because I didn't love the beta. And then I got into the hype train when it was releasing. And I said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to buy it and just play it. Really enjoyed it until I got to like the end of the game. And like, you can kind of see the like the feedback loop of how you play the end game got really boring really fast. And then the first season came out, which was really weak. I picked it up, tried to play it again, stopped really shortly. Season 2 came out, picked it up again, tried to play it. There's good stuff there, but there's so much good that's missing that Diablo 3 and Diablo 2 had, that it's like, how do they have such a huge glaring oversight on so many of these quality of life things, or itemization, or end game content, or just obvious stuff.
Maybe it was just a little bit rushed, right? Maybe they should have just delayed it for an extra 8 months.
Totally. And now there's rumors about the expansion that comes out. I think it's end of 2024. Of being super expensive. Like, I don't know if you saw that forum of it talking about.
I did, yeah.
It's like,
or something.
Oh my god! Like, I just blew a bunch of money on this game and it's whatever. And now you're gonna fix all those issues and sell me a second game for it, basically. So, again, I really like it. It probably will make my top 10 because the what I have played of it, I do enjoy it. Like, I do find it's one of those games I do pick up and play a little bit, but I don't see it in the same echelon as Diablo 2, which is what it was kind of hyped to be. And even Diablo 3, I liked a lot more than this. I think Diablo 4 in 5 years from now is going to be an amazing, amazing game that I'll love. But right now, it's just kind of like, I'm just waiting for all these things to be fixed or added or improved on.
Yeah, the thing, I mean, I know recently they've been advertising this 40% sale on Diablo 4. And I've been tempted to just, because I want to play it. I enjoyed Diablo 3, not to the level of depth that other people do. But I played Diablo 3 when it came to Switch, like 6 years after it came out, and had all the DLC, and it wasn't trying to predatorily go after my FOMO or anything. And when it comes to Blizzard, it seems like they're just dangerously dipping into microtransaction abuse territory.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'll ever participate in one of their games at launch unless they really change their studio structure, because not interested in any of that crap. And they clearly don't care about the goodwill they're losing on their brand. They just want to go after the whales, and I just can't support that. So I'm looking forward to playing Diablo 4 on Game Pass in 2 years, where I do a romp through the single player with a friend, and that's it.
Yeah, and I'll be there to play with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was mine. How about you?
My biggest disappointment, I have two answers here. My first is Starfield.
I didn't even play it, so
what a disappointing game. I feel like they completely misrepresented what it was. I feel like it's painfully unfun, and I feel like it's such a colossal miss for Microsoft. Where
it's been hyped for years, right?
For years, and it's what a disappointment to look forward to a big game from a big studio. And it's sad, a lot of people who are Bethesda fans I see are like, well, this is the worst Bethesda game I've played in years, worse than Fallout 4. And it's like, well, the sad thing is, it's not like we can wait for the next one coming in a year or two. Like, we got to wait 5 years for their next game, hoping that they adapt. And I guess the only way I can relate to that disappointment is something like Skyward Sword, where it was like, yeah, well, this Zelda's not great, but we got to wait another 5 years for the next one. We've been waiting 5 years for this one. But I feel like Skyward Sword was better received when it came out and had bolder direction than this game did, and was more focused on having fun.
And again, I haven't played Starfield, so I can't comment. But even Skyward Sword, which is one of my least favorite Zeldas, I still thought was awesome with some of the stuff they went for. Like some of the boss fights where you're actually like using the sword like as a motion controller. Yep. It's awesome. Some of the puzzles are awesome. Some of the dungeons are awesome. There are a lot of misses in that game, but it's like I don't look back on Skyward Sword and go, man, what a like wet fart. You know, it was good.
I do remember when Skyward Sword came out and feeling like I really enjoyed parts of it, but the flaws were there, and there was a sinking feeling of like, okay, this isn't the 3D Zelda reinvention we've wanted so badly. And I think it was the same feeling with 3D World a little bit when it came out. It's like, oh, this isn't the big 3D Mario reinvention we want. And I think that's maybe the same feeling people have with Starfield, but I think it impounds extra, because with something like, I keep bringing up Skyward Sword because it's for me a familiar feeling of disappointment from a studio that works for 5 years on a game and then doesn't have another game for 5 years. But with Skyward Sword, it came out at the end of the Wii. And by that point, the Wii had already made its mark and had its Wii Sports and had its Wii Sports Resort and had its Mario Galaxy. Like, it had its moment, right? It was kind of like a softer swan song for the series, for the system. Mm-hmm. But with Xbox Series, it's like Starfield is the game that has been its apex game.
Yeah,
really.
It's like flagship anchor game. Yeah,
exactly. And with Halo Infinite not being that game, and this game disappointing after so much hype and so much time, it really shows that this whole generation is a miss for Microsoft. And it's just too bad. And I don't see what game they're going to have in the next year that's going to be as big, hyped, and prominent as a Starfield, that they could, at least Nintendo can be like, okay, yeah, this game wasn't great, but look to that coming out next year.
I get like the only thing I can imagine is, as far as Xbox studios, you have Gears of War 6. Which that game could get a lot of hype, could be awesome.
If they do a God of War 2018 reinvention, but as far as I know, Gears of War Judgment, Gears of War 4, and Gears of War 5, as good as they are, I played them. I loved 5, was great.
It's more of the same.
They're incredibly iterative, and they're just not exciting anymore.
Yeah, So I'm just throwing out ideas, and the other thing was, if you look at Bethesda. Machine gun games, like they could pull out an awesome game of an Indiana Jones, or Tango could make the Evil Within 3. That could be awesome. There could be a
New Doom.
New
Doom, yeah.
And then you also have, you do have Activision Blizzard King. I don't really know what's on the horizon for Blizzard. Looks like they already have kind of their main multiplayer games on the go, and Activision just says Call of Duty these days. So I don't really think much from there, but I think Bethesda has a few games that they could be, 90 Metacritic score games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, so we'll see. But my other disappointment of 2023 is just a general lack of game announcements that I'm excited for about the future. Where I felt like 23.
Wait. So 2023 has like the best games ever, but your biggest disappointment was just that you want more for 2024.
Well, I guess it's just that there's no moment this year where a big game was announced, and I'm really excited for next year. So
Because they all came out this year.
They all came out this year, but I just feel like I don't know. I would have been nice if there was something like even a Switch 2 tease or a Metroid Prime 4 tease or Last of Us Factions or Last of Us 3 tease or anything from Microsoft, or a Resident Evil Code Veronica tease or a Resident Evil 9 tease or knowing that Silent Hill 2 is going to be okay and come out next year.
Game Awards is this week, man.
Yeah, we'll see. I think the biggest announcements that I saw for next year are Final Fantasy Rebirth and Paper Mario Thousand Year Door Remake.
Final Fantasy Rebirth is huge, so we shouldn't be underplaying that. I totally forgot about it though. And there is Capcom that's saying they're having a game coming out by the end of this fiscal year that's going to sell millions. So there could be a Monster Hunter game.
I think that's going to be. I think they're talking about Dragon's Dogma too, aren't they?
I thought they already said it wasn't Dragon's Dogma.
There's no way that they have a game coming out before March that's not announced, unless it's literally announced at Game Awards and it's like a huge surprise. But I don't see it.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
I don't see it. Usually their Resident Evils get at least a year announcement in advance.
I think there will be games coming out or announced at the Game Awards. And there are big games coming next year. There's not for us, right? Like Prince of Persia, I know isn't huge, but that game looks awesome. But Tekken 8 is coming out next year. I'm just trying to think of other games. Path of Exile 2, it looks like it's poised to come out next year, which is going to be massive.
Maybe Metal Gear Solid 3 remake might come. I'm sure they'll be great games. It's just, you guys, it's just like you come off such a high year, and it's just hard to.
I think the Game Awards really is the signifier of. Let's look at 2024 now. Because again, we've had, in fairness, in 2023, we were jam-packed full of games where it'd be like kind of hard to focus on 2024 games even in October because a bunch of games in October and November came out that were like Game of the Year nominations worthy. Right? So to focus on 2024 at that point, it's like, whoa, we're not done with 2023. Let's like all those developers are saying, let's focus on the other big games we have coming in 2023. So I think we're going to get, I wouldn't say a blowout because I don't think there's going to be that much ammunition for 2024. But I think we're going to see some pretty awesome games shown or announced. I think we could see Wolverine. I think we could see some of those Xbox games I just mentioned. Nintendo, I think we're just waiting for the Switch 2 in all honesty. But I wouldn't be surprised if we saw one, not at the Game Awards, but another Nintendo game coming out that's a release. They haven't told us, but it's actually going to be a release launch game for the Switch 2, but they'll show it earlier than they showed the Switch 2. So I think there's a lot of potential for the Game Awards. I don't think it's going to be a million games, but I think you're going to be surprised and pleasantly happy with how 2024 looks after this week.
Let's hope. I don't have a lot of high expectations, but I guess we'll see in a few days. But yeah, I want something that I'm really excited for next year, and right now there's not much.
Prince of Persia.
Prince of Persia, I cannot wait for. I can't wait. Paper Mario is going to be great, and
Switch 2. Switch 2 is going to have at least one good launch game. So there's one amazing Nintendo game that's going to launch.
You know what? Switch. I'm not even convinced Switch 2 is going to come out next year.
Yes, it is.
I hope it is, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's turns out to be holiday 2025.
There's no way.
We'll see. All right, Derek, quickly because we're running out of time here. I haven't really been playing very much other than what I've talked about. Is there anything you want to talk about that you've been playing?
Mario RPG we already played, but I finished Mario Wonder, so I beat it 100% of the game, and I also beat Jusant, the climbing game, this morning.
Okay, great.
So yeah, the past 2 days I beat both those games.
Any quick thoughts about them? Now, we talk about Wonder a lot, but any kind of revised thoughts of Wonder now that you've 100%ed it?
Yeah, definitely. My impressions definitely improved. You're right. Like the later levels get more fun, more zany, a bit longer, more challenging, more interesting. So the game has definitely gone higher in my scales. Do I love it to the point where it's like, oh, it's going to be top 5 on my list? Probably not. No. I think it probably will squeak into my Game of the Year top 10. Just because it is a really fun game. So yeah, it's improved. Jusant, I like. It's a solid game. It's a great kind of journey like feeling. I love the music. I love the kind of spectacle of seeing it. It is a short game. It doesn't really reinvent the wheel in anything, and the games I'd compare it to, I liked the other games more. Like I liked Abzu and I liked Journey more than I liked Jusant.
And Grow Home as well is another game I liked more. I was going to say the same thing.
I didn't play that, but again,
it's
Jusant,
awesome.
Jusant is Grow Home, like the flying bird game, right?
No, Grow Home's the game where you're a little robot who's climbing a beanstalk.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. I've never played it though.
I've never had a game that until Tears of the Kingdom, that game had like such a vertigo, you're high in the sky feeling that no other game captured till Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh, that's cool. Anyways, I liked it. It probably won't make my game of the year list just because there's so many, but I still think it's a solid game for those that want to try it out.
I love Jusant, and I'm probably 2 hours from the finale of it. But I find the fact that it's like a platforming style game, it's a little too restrictive and janky with some of the geometry. Mm-hmm. So that kind of threw me off, and I've gotten stuck a few times. Like not stuck because I like actually the character gets stuck on a chair and can't move, and I have to like wiggle the analog stick to get him off.
Yeah, I had that.
So there's a little bit of jank there, but yeah, it's a cool experience. Definitely like a strong 7 out of 10. But I think Cocoon is my indie game of the year, bar none.
Yeah, I think mine's Chance of Sinnoh probably.
Cool. Yeah. Well, Derek, I guess next time we'll have some stuff to talk about. We'll have the Game Awards. We'll have GTA 6. We'll maybe have some other new games we've been playing. Yeah. So it's been a good chat, Derek. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, sounds good. This is Derek. See you later.
This is Peter signing out.